Rick, great to see you again.
Hey, good morning, Keith. Good to be here.
Thank you. The title of this podcast is going to be How to Know When It's Your Ego. You want to kick us
Well, first of all, it's probably the first thing that pops up. Feeling superior, judging the other person, considering all of the things that they're doing that are wrong that you need to tell them about, having opinions, uh, judging yourself, all of those things. I'll give you one quick example of how I know I'm in the thick of it, and uh, this is after years of practice. It doesn't go away. You still turn up and do all this foolishness. So how did this work? Oh yeah. So I I was in a car in my car. There was another person with me, and we were going to Starbucks. And I pulled up to the little window there after I gave the order, got my drinks, and I said, "Hey, I pay for the people behind me too." And so the person next to me said, "Wow, that is really cool. That is really cool." And I said, "Yeah, but they'll never know about it." And I thought, "Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is that the point? You want to let them know how generous you are?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to go back and tell them while we're waiting." And I didn't say anything. And then all of a sudden, it snapped into my head, man. You're just doing this because you want a stroke. You're just doing this because you want some credit.
Rick, Rick, you didn't stop him from going to tell him?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I did.
Yeah,
But the point is, I was there. I was
you got to
there
tweet
with my ego saying, "Hey, look at me, man! I just bought you something. Aren't I great?"
Oh, man, that's
So
fantastic.
that's just a small example, but that stuff happens to me daily. I mean, every opportunity to take credit, I look at that and I think there are two ways to go here. Yeah, man, I'm the hero. I'm the guy who pulled that off. Or you could say, we got things lined up, worked out well. You did well preparing, blah blah blah. You could go down that road, deflect, but know in your heart that you did well, and that's all you really need.
Right.
But you could also jump in the other end and be egotistical about it, and put it on your resume and broadcast it and start a podcast about it. So my point is that it's never ending. My ego is always the first thing that hits me, and I want to be especially aware of it because that's not the kind of person I want to be. And it starts, I think, first by looking at how many options, how many forks that we confront where you have the chance to accept credit, accept praise, and really thrive on that, as opposed to having that inside praise for yourself without needing the external. It's a big difference. And I want to be in the latter category. So
Absolutely. Man, Rick, that is so good. That is so good. Yeah,
it's embarrassing, Keith.
yeah, not to the ego, but not to
Yeah, yeah.
but I mean, you're aware of this. I mean, you missed the first one, but you got another chance, and so you got that one. And that just reminds me, we're working on this project at Mayo, and this just happened yesterday. And thank God I'm doing the practice because if I didn't do the practice, I'd be suffering over it. But I had a little moment there similar to what yours were. Working on this big project, and it's a project that it's three of us that are really working on it, and we got a lot of partners that are helping us with it, but we're the ones who have been tasked to do this project. And the project is for people that are already insured at Mayo Clinic for their health care of, of Hispanics, Blacks, and Native Americans. They aren't coming. So we have this project to make them, welcome at Mayo because we haven't done a really good job of that. Well, anyway, it is no small thing to get through all of the protocols and processes and to build out capacity on doctors' calendars and get everybody on board to want to support this and make room for it. Well, this is an operations lift. You need somebody with a lot of experience in operations to get this done, of how the Mayo Clinic system works, as well as having the relationship with people throughout Mayo Clinic to be able to do it, to have a to have a positive relationship, a healthy relationship with them to do it, because they already have so much on their plate. Well, after we were hoping to get this thing launched in January, here we are in almost mid-July, and we're about to get it launched. And so, one person on our team it's her relationships, her knowing how the system works, got it done. So my great friend Nathan, who is a physician on the project with the two of us, sends out an email just really congratulating us to get to this point, that we're almost there. And at the end of it, it thanks her for all her work. And I was like, and my ego was like, where's my name? But it doesn't care that I had nothing to do with the operations part of it. It was literally all her, but it still wanted a stroke, Rick. It still wanted like a mention. And I was like, but I caught it. And I was like, oh yeah, man, she did all the work. Yeah, she deserves it. Why we should bold her name. We should lead with that. Like I totally got it. So it doesn't take long. There's so many ways that the ego shows up. Mine is about being right. So I'll tell you a couple. This is a trivial one too. Many years ago, this is before I started doing the practice. I was at a networking meeting, and everybody's on a first name basis. And I'm introducing this one woman who I sat next to her a few seats down from for over a year. And I'd been calling her Margie, like Margie. And I was introducing other people to her. So one day my friend Carly was there and I said, hey, introducing to somebody new, hey, and this is Margie. And my friend Carly said, that's not how you pronounce her name. I was like, it is. That's how you pronounce her name, Margie. And then so Carly said, no, it's Margie. I said, no, it's Margie. And Margie goes, no, is Margie. but I was so about Rick. I was like, this one was born with the name. Here I am, been calling her the wrong name for so long, and she never corrected me that I'm telling other people the name. I mean, the ego knows no bounds about, and so my biggest thing with the ego is the need to be right. And it doesn't stop there. It's you're wrong and I'm right. So it doubles down. It's not that I got to be right. You got to be wrong. So I'm going to be wrong. And that was a good example of it. But another way that it shows up is that I have seen is that when you don't do something at your best, you start to make excuses for it. No, I was thinking something else. I meant to do something else or whatever, but you didn't do something else. Just be okay. Somebody gives you feedback and coaching, just accept the coaching. Don't come up with a reason or excuse. Just accept it. And what I found is when I do that, if I just say thank you, just say thank you. I have a good friend who's made some progress in this area, but there's some more work to do. That whenever you would say something to them, they would always have something to say back. Then I was like, you're doing it. You're doing it. You did it again. You did it again. Just say thank you. And the reason that I use that is because it's something that I had to work on myself. And it is just me putting a spotlight on the ego. And when I'm putting a spotlight on, it wants to be perfect. It want and there's and that's where the suffering is because we're not perfect and there's no room to to stumble. There's no room to stumble. And just really be aware of the imperfection of life. And that's where the beauty is. The beauty is there. You know, I think did a podcast one time about there being a crack in something. And the way you look at it is the crack allows the light to get in. And that's when you stumble. That's allowing the light in because we're not perfect. And so I just love this podcast, Rick, about how to know when it's your ego. And it just keeps showing up all the time. When you're feeling guilty, only the ego can feel guilty. The conscious self doesn't feel any of that. When you're not guilt, blaming others, you touched on that. Shame, oh, shame's a big one. You know, just all those things. And my personal one that I already mentioned, my need to be right and to make you wrong is a big one. So how do you want to close this out, Rick?
I can't add to that, Keith. It's beautifully said again. It's like going to a counseling session when I do these things with you because I learned so much about it.
Same here. That's how I feel. Everything you bless me with.
The ego is a killer. It'll get in the way of who you want to be. And if you want to
100%.
be open-hearted and kind and have a sense of inner peace and be at home in the world and think it's a lovely place with lots of options, there's no place for having those kinds of needs for credit in my case, or in your case, the need to be right and the other person to be wrong, or whatever your particular ego hang up is. Those things get in the way of all of the ways, the constellation of values, the core values that you really want to project for yourself. So I think that it's a constant battle, as we said so many times before. It's not like you go to the gym on Saturday and you're good for the rest of your life. That is a discipline. going to the gym, doing RT, experiencing good nutrition, getting the proper sleep, avoiding alcohol and unhealthy habits. All of this is a practice. And so every time, and it's every day, that the ego comes up, it's another opportunity to look at it and ask yourself, is this the person that I want to be? Is this the person, the guy that I see myself being? And if it's not, well, then it's time to do what you need to do to tame the ego. Hard to do because the ego is there to protect. The ego is there to prevent us from feeling that we're isolated, that we're unworthy, that we're not good enough. And it does all of these backflips to create constructs that get in the way of actual living, in my judgment. So the more we're aware of it, the better. But we always have the ultimate choice of how we want to proceed in life. So whatever your pick is, go for it.
There you go, Rick. I love you, Rick. Thank you.
I love you, Keith. Adios.
Adios.